Gout Gout has broken the magical 10-second barrier twice in one night in the under-20s 100 metres Australian Athletics Championships.
At just 17, Gout Gout has run 9.99 seconds twice in one night, broken Peter Norman's decades-old record, and outpaced Usain Bolt's best time at his age without flinching. Is the sprinting world witnessing the rise of its next unstoppable force?
It is Gout in the centre. Also Thamil of Sri Lanka going well and holding on to that second spot at the moment.
In 2024, something electric happened on the Australian track that made even the most seasoned athletics fans sit up straight. Gout Gout, still just 16 at the time, didn't just win a race. He rewrote history in a way that put him firmly on the global radar. It happened at the Australian All-Schools Championships in Brisbane, where he clocked a jaw-dropping 20.04 seconds in the 200 meters. This wasn't just another teenage win. That single sprint did two massive things. First, it broke Peter Norman's long-standing Oceanian record, which had held its ground since 1968. And second, it surpassed the world U16 best time, set by none other than Usain Bolt back in 2003. In one race, Gout shattered a national legacy and overtook a global benchmark. That's not just speed. That's legacy in motion.
At the Australian Athletics Championships in Perth, the teenager's biggest threat in the final was Lachlan Kennedy, who only just lost the 100-metre final to Rowan Browning last night.
What made this performance even more surreal is the context around it. Peter Norman is a legendary figure in Australian athletics, best remembered for his Olympic podium protest and his incredible 200-meter silver in Mexico City. For a teenager to unseat that record with such confidence speaks volumes about Gout's raw talent. Then there's the Bolt factor. Beating Bolt's age group best doesn't mean Gout is the next Bolt, but it does mean he's sprinting on a timeline that mirrors one of the greatest ever. That's not common. That's rare air. And Gout was doing all this before even turning 17.
One's a rising star, the other's an Olympic veteran, and both turned it on at the Australian Athletics Championships. Gout Gout and WA's Peter Bolt lit up.
If you know anything about sprinting, you know what breaking 10 seconds in the 100-meter means. It's not just a milestone. It's a rite of passage into elite company. On a breezy night at the 2025 Australian Athletics Championships in Perth, Gout Gout gave everyone a double dose of history by clocking 9.99 seconds, not once, but twice. First in the heats, then again in the final. And while both times were wind-assisted and technically ineligible for official records, nobody who was there, or watched it online, could forget what they saw. Wind assistance in track is one of those cruel little rules. If the wind pushes you faster than 2.0 meters per second, the time doesn't count in the books. In Gout's case, his heat was run with a plus 3.5 meter per second tailwind, and the final had a plus 2.6 meter per second. That means both times were too wind-friendly to be considered legal. But try telling that to anyone who watched the race live. Gout's form, acceleration, and calm under pressure were what truly mattered. He didn't just run fast, he dominated. He proved that he's already in the sub-10 territory physically, even if the record books don't reflect it yet. What made the moment even more impressive is that he's only 17. Most sprinters are still figuring out their mechanics and confidence at that age. Gout is already toe-to-toe with seasoned pros. Even though his legal personal best stands at 10.17 seconds, which he set in 2024, everyone knows it's only a matter of time before he clocks a wind-legal sub-10. It's not a question of if, it's when. And based on how he's been running, that moment could arrive any day now.
The record wiped due to an illegal tailwind, the third time this competition.
The wind is the devil here in Perth.
I mean, it's definitely frustrating.
For all the noise around Gout Gout's 100-meter runs, his real domination lies in the 200 meters. That's where he looks most comfortable, most fluid, and most unstoppable. While the 100 meters showcases his explosive power, the 200 meters reveals his rhythm, endurance, and frightening top-end speed. It's where his real magic happens. At just 16, he clocked 20.04 seconds, legally. Not only was that the fastest ever by an Australian over that distance, but it was also the fastest ever by a 16-year-old globally. That number alone would have been enough to make the world watch. But Gout wasn't done. At the Queensland Athletics Championships earlier this year, he went even faster, an eye-watering 19.98 seconds. Unfortunately, that time was wind-assisted and can't be officially counted, but the message it sent was loud and clear. He's already at sub-20 pace, and he's still not in his physical prime. That time alone is faster than many Olympic finalists ever manage. And he's only just getting started. The combination of his age, times, and potential is what's making everyone, from track veterans to up-and-coming sprinters, talk about him like he's the next big thing.
Gout is just 17 years old. Patrick Johnson remains the only Aussie to go under 10 seconds legally, while Rowan Browning also broke the barrier wind-assisted.
Sprinters and coaches are keeping a close eye on him, not just because of the records, but because of how easily he seems to hit those numbers. There's no strain in his stride, no panic in his starts. He has the kind of composure you only see in seasoned Olympians, but it's wrapped in the body of a 17-year-old. That's what makes the 200 meters such a weapon for him. It gives him the space to settle into his speed and unleash his full stride pattern. If the 100 meters is about raw firepower, the 200 is where Gout turns into an artist. When a teenager starts running jaw-dropping times in the 100 meter and 200 meter, it doesn't take long for the world to draw comparisons. And in Gout's case, the comparison is a big one: Usain Bolt. The media has jumped all over it, calling him the next Bolt or Australia's Bolt every chance they get. After all, Bolt is the gold standard in sprinting, and anyone who runs sub-10 or shatters records before turning 18 is bound to attract that kind of attention. But while the hype is real and the headlines keep multiplying, not everyone is buying into the comparison so quickly. Some seasoned athletes and coaches are urging caution, reminding people that Gout is still developing and deserves space to grow without being weighed down by unrealistic expectations. One of the strongest voices on this matter is former 100-meter world champion Justin Gatlin. He knows firsthand what pressure feels like when the whole world's watching. On his podcast, he spoke about the dangers of placing labels too early on young athletes. He said, "Stop putting labels on these young athletes when it's not time for them to have these labels. Let Gout Gout be Gout Gout." It wasn't shade, it was wisdom. Gatlin wasn't knocking Gout's talent. He praised him for what he's achieved so far. His concern was more about the pressure cooker of fame, expectations, and constant comparisons that could stunt Gout's natural progression. At the same time, it's hard to ignore the numbers. Gout's 20.04 in the 200 meter at just 16 beats Bolt's time at the same age. His sub-10 performances, even if wind-aided, mirror the explosive entry Bolt made into the sprinting world. Their age timelines are eerily similar, and both were breaking national records as teenagers. That's why people can't stop talking. It's like watching a familiar story unfold again, just on a different continent. But here's the thing: Gout doesn't need to be Bolt 2.0. He's Gout Gout. And he's carving out his own story, one that's rooted in discipline, humility, and self-belief. He doesn't seem obsessed with comparisons or overwhelmed by the pressure. He just shows up, runs fast, and walks off the track like it's all part of the process. And that's what makes him even more dangerous. Because while the world is busy comparing, he's busy becoming. You'd think sprinters only care about times, records, and medals. But what gets their attention is a mix of things. Talent, yes, but also attitude, maturity, and how someone carries themselves on and off the track. That's exactly why Gout Gout is the name on everyone's lips right now. Sure, his sub-10 runs and record-breaking 200 meter are impressive, but it's who he is behind those numbers that's turning heads. He's just 17, but when he speaks after a race, you don't hear ego or arrogance. You hear focus. You hear hunger. He sounds like someone who understands the weight of what he's doing, but isn't letting it crush him. After his 9.99 runs in Perth, Gout didn't jump around or boast. He calmly said, "I didn't get the start I anticipated, but I just focused on what I needed to focus on. Got through my drive phase and kept driving. Can't be happier than that." That kind of calm under pressure, that's rare, especially for someone so young. Sprinters notice things like that. They respect when someone doesn't chase headlines, but instead chases personal growth. And that's what Gout is doing. He's not trying to be famous, he's trying to be great. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.